Ranks, or Rex as well. Can't forget Rex. Unfortunately not here, but Solar is a beast. He's a monster. He's one of the most consistent Zergs. He's also got a bit of a nickname, and that is the unluckiest player in the world. Because of course, lots of reversals where he's up 2-0 and people bring it back 3-0, and more importantly, some of those moments where gigantic nukes have landed on him in this specific tournament. He was beating Maru, and a nuke landed on his entire army when he was distracted, and it's happened a few times since then with nukes. Single pylon wall-offs that nobody knew about, where Parting gets a free win versus him in GSL because the map wasn't properly tested. There's a long history of Solar being fantastic at the game, and he's won tournaments in 2014, 2016, this sort of stuff, but the last few years, he's had a lot of unfortunate events.
Yeah, I know unlucky isn't exactly a great term to use. It's very vague, doesn't really mean much, but those are great examples of that, and it's just, it is something that it happens so often. The build order counters, the rare in StarCraft, seem to happen to him more often. The nukes that everyone, like every other time that he would play against nukes, he would spot, just all of a sudden he doesn't in one of the biggest tournaments of his career. So, you know, that in mind, plus his just kind of negative attitude overall, what we currently have is not just a clash of perhaps styles with Korean versus European ZVZ, but we also kind of have a clash of the super confident Elazer, particularly when it comes to ZVZ, and apparently a fairly unconfident Solar. But Solar may be looking to get that confidence ASAP, is hiding some lings up there. He's building a number there, Pig.
Yeah, gas pool opening, and he's stopped at 16 drones. This is an incredibly low worker count. This is essentially a massive attack that's going to be a giant ling flood. Solar is not building any more drones, and in about 20 seconds, he's going to be flooding across that map, looking to catch Elazer off guard. Elazer has not started the Baneling nest yet. He's going for a third hatchery, and against this, Elazer's going to need to quickly pull his queens back to his ramp, hold position in there, get Banelings and Zerglings up on the high ground, and then try and defend in the choke point. But if Solar can get a big wraparound, a bigger bit of surface area, that'll be big. But we get seen, and Elazer spots it. You can see the Overlord react immediately. Elazer is going to be able to respond. Evo Chamber going down. He's going to try and wall off.
Yeah, which might just work. Hopefully this is actually concrete. In fact, it is. And Solar, you know, he actually had an opportunity there. If he had known somehow magically that there was a sliver of dark space, he could have got in there without being seen. Now he's up against a full wall of evolution chambers already.
Baneling nest getting targeted down there. He needs to more Banelings, but I don't think it's going to finish in time. Nice targeting by Solar, who's completely committed at this stage. Oh my lord, that goes down. It's just going to be Massling versus Massling, but these Broodlings will help a lot here. Every time an Evo Chamber dies, you can see he doesn't want to take that damage. Whoa, whoa, whoa! But actually, Elazer has the numbers to hold the choke point. It looks like he's confident defending there. He's up 7 workers behind this, puts a Baneling nest down to complete the wall off behind it, and Solar is in big trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. What hopefully was going to give him that very nice, easy first victory is now turned on him. He's now behind, and he's got to make something happen against Elazer, who is eventually going to have that Baneling nest. That solid answer against a mass Ling Flood is once again walled, apparently, too, with that Queen in position. And Solar just finally has to shrug and say, I guess I got a drone, but he must know that he's in a very, very difficult position.
No Baneling tech. He doesn't have a good economy either. I mean, Solar's pretty desperate here. I like that Elazer gets these Lings out, because the only way this could go bad is if he lets all these Lings get surrounded, right? But Elazer's just being very chill, adding melee, upgrade. He's got a second gas mining, so he'll be able to go upwards. Or actually, maybe that was an extractor trick, because I think that second gas did actually get cancelled.
Yeah, I think so, because he did get supply blocks from, I guess, Solar's Queen, poking and prodding, and didn't take that into account, while, of course, building a humongous wall and double walling. So a little bit understandable, but that did also perhaps stop Elazer from gaining any more momentum afterwards. So it's just been a runaround game, and he has only kept that single worker lead, which is now gone. But he is working on that faster +1 melee. He is still on, I suppose, more Solar side of the map, and with Banelings on his side of the map, it's not like Solar can get much done unless suddenly his micro is just a lot better, which certainly they're both trying to force errors from their opponent.
Yeah, these Lings, you can see Elazer gets a good little fight and then runs away, looking to catch Solar with inferior numbers. Both sides making Banelings. Melee will be kicking in about a minute's time for Elazer, but he's not going to wait for that. He's going hard to get out on the map. Elazer, watch out for that Baneling bait! Oh!
Oh, no. George the Jungle running right into that tree. That did not work out super well. Solar now a little ahead on the drones with his own Baneling technology, having that very confident boosting Baneling hit. And maybe maybe this actually isn't going to end so abruptly.
Elazer's looking a bit stubborn right now. No third hatchery on the way. I think he could have droned up. I mean, he had a big lead for a while, but he kind of loses it all in that baneling hit. I don't think he's far behind by any means. I mean, Elazer's a little ahead in army, a little down in workers. His third slightly later. It's still a very even game on both sides, but I'm a little surprised that Elazer didn't just kind of get a third up and start heading towards Lair, because I think if you can get mutas out in this sort of game, they are going to be just dominating.
He's going to have that +1 melee, which is going to make any Ling battle go in his favor, but is noticeably not the Carapace, which would give him a second chance against any of the banelings of his opponents.
Good map for Massling as well, actually, because it's so wide open. There's so many paths. He's going to get a cancel on Solar's third. That is a massive victory. And he's going for Carapace behind it, which means Elazer's doubling down on this Massling style. He wants to play the big multi-prong game, while Solar is going into a more generic Roach style.
Couldn't help you more right there, right? Like you said, it was going to be great for all the Lings running around. There you have it. Solar having to cancel a third base. Now we are adding a Roach Warren. So, I mean, yeah, I guess they're both going to go into Roaches. Of course, we're going to have a Laser with that +1 melee, always able to go for that run by. Where is the Roach Warren? Maybe we'll check that out a little later, but the lair is about halfway done for Solar now.
Yeah, a little bit hidden for Elazer since it's behind that wall that was already up from before. But going into a Roach versus Roach game, Solar's way up on workers. He doesn't have the hugest benefit of an income lead until his third finishes rebuilding. So, I mean, Elazer should have a chance to catch up on the economy, and he's going to always have a much scarier squad of Zerglings running around the map. A very even game, and how they make use of these early game Zerglings and Banelings is going to be really crucial to set up for the next stage.
The only reason I was asking about that Roach Warren is that I was wondering if it was going to be incredibly obvious, like even too much, and then Elazer might actually go into something different, but he had no lair on the way, and then he started a +1 missile, so like that was just completely useless for me. It is Roach versus Roach. But if it's just Roach versus Roach, if it's just a numbers game, then Solar has had this economic benefit of the drone count at least for a little while. I guess with the third having to be displaced, then we see that there's not any arrows pointing either direction on the minerals has not been too bad, but now that third is back up and running. And we have that consistent scouting coming down, trying to determine exactly what this is. Certainly Spire play, if it goes unnoticed, is quite dangerous, but we are just going Roach.
Yep, Roach. Roaches are just going to be vomiting acid on each other in this one. And the Spire pretty good for, like you said, cleaning up Overlords, all that sort of stuff. This is Elazer's vision, pulling Overlords back from the front, and you can see he's taking the gases, starting to spread those drones across those three bases. Probably thinking about a fourth. There we go. Yep, there is indeed a fourth started on that bottom side. So, yeah, he's going to be working forwards with the economy and going to be watching out to make sure those Overlords don't go down. Roach speed does get remembered there, a very important upgrade. And those Lings clearing up Solar's map vision. So very good control from Elazer. He's also trying to get the gas to start +2 range and carapace by the looks of it.
Indeed, yeah. Solar starts up +2. I mean, this has now gone past the point of where they both decided this was going to happen, right? They've chosen the builder was coming in here. Clearly, Solar was the aggressive one. Elazer has responded, having to cancel his fourth base right there. But now we're getting into more of that macro mechanical game, which Elazer, as I've been pointing out, down in the drones could hurt eventually because of it. But he does have that +1 carapace, at least in the lead. Their +2 is going to finish up quite similar to each other. Now the question is, who is going to be able to outposition each other, have those better fights? Do we actually get even perhaps a late game, which I'm not sure I was really expecting for ZVZ, but we might get it between these two.
Yeah, still a little way to go until we get there. The players are matching each other in army supply, very similar. Big Roach army coming forward there. Solar has a slightly more mobile force, but Roach speed's going to kick in for Elazer in a second, and Elazer's Zerglings are still such a very present threat. If they can find an angle, those +1 Zerglings are going to slay. They've got the carapace as well, which is big. Like, if they're just fighting a few Roaches or Lings on their own, they can surround those and absolutely smash them.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. In case in point, you're just really calling this like a prophet right now. Those Roaches were a little alone, but not anymore. Their buddies do show up. Nice quick micro on the Ravager cocoons. Wow, okay, I couldn't say that weirder. Cocoons as well.
It's if you use it defensively as a mover, it's a cocoon defense. I like it. Cocoon.
There you go. Yeah, but so there. I mean, you're going to be adding in Ravagers eventually. So now even they have an identical count, I believe. They've both moved their way into maxing out. Solar finally does have now an established economic lead. He's got those arrows pointing up. That means he's mining a little bit better. But both maxed out. It's going to come down to the concave, perhaps who actually micros better with Corrosive Biles. And that's the hugest part of the battle. But even trying to catch something off guard. We have Burrow on the way, perhaps Tunneling Claws also. Yeah, actually there it is, right? So Solar is going to go for some distraction eventually. But right now, just butting heads in the middle of the map.
Does land some nice biles on Elazer and cleans up the fight on the bottom side as well. The biles being dodged for the most part. Elazer's up in army supply, so Solar's got to be wary. He could get outnumbered. A pitched battle could turn very far in Elazer's favor very quickly. Solar has the economy advantage, so it's in his interest to draw the combat out as long as possible and let his economy do its work. Whereas Elazer is going to, on the other hand, look for one crushing engagement to smash through. But he can't eat biles, he can't get sloppy.
Yeah, well, now he's actually the one that's giving up his army, trying to take advantage of Solar on a bit of the run. As he is still on the run, he's getting pushed down the ramp and actually trying to get the last-second concave, while also defending his third base, where drones are, in fact, going down.
Wow.
Elazer with a nice 1-2 punch right here might have found the opening. Currently, supplies are staying rather even, but the fourth base actually being ignored by Elazer right now as he goes for the throat.
Solar gets some amazing biles there. Parts of those fights went very well, but he loses his fourth base and 18 drones. Solar takes some big economic damage. I think Elazer's got to get out of here, though. He does not want to overextend on this one. He's now got the economic advantage. He's the one with the fourth base up, whereas Solar, look at that army coming through the middle. You don't want to let him wrap around and stop you from retreating. Elazer's going to pull back, gather up his forces, and he is now far ahead.
He has tons of roaches that just popped out. Now, Solar did finally finish up the Tunneling Claws, which is a graphical upgrade, guys. So if Elazer is paying attention, perhaps he's actually laid something down, but it doesn't look like it. There's been a lot happening in this game. So no Spore Crawlers, no Spines already in position. That could actually really buy Solar a lot of time and do a decent amount of damage. Currently, only the 4 roaches in the main, so maybe it's not going to be catastrophic, but again, maybe buy some time. Let Solar get maxed out again, at least get kind of back on the even footing, even if his economy is still not as great.
Overseers still have not morphed reactively. Elazer seems to be sending units back to try and defend, but he's going to need Overseers to clean him up. Solar not actually burrowing those roaches immediately, though, so a bunch of them did go down. Of course, there's so much multitasking on every side. Elazer's got a squad of roaches running around the back. Solar's got a squad of roaches burrowing around the back, and they're skirmishing with the main armies in the middle at the same time. It is a real test of the mechanics and the multitasking of both players, and Solar is not going to stop with that anytime soon. Another squad of roaches work their way down the south side. It feels like Elazer might have got wind of that, though. His army's very close by.
It is, so looks like Solar is not going to depend too much, maybe just literally 2. Kind of test the waters even. In fact, they might just be the guiding light here saying, yeah, green light, guys, let's go ahead and continue divvying ourselves up. So 2 here, 2 perhaps to the third, and even more in the natural. Solar even has another army going into the natural by the looks of things. And just on the mini-map, you can see that it's all on Elazer's side. Solar's been able to recover his 4th base. He's moving his army as well, hoping to find Elazer out of position. Elazer trying to take that into account, moves his army back, but is it going to be good enough? Who actually has the bigger army in this particular front? Elazer's also on the bottom of his own choke, a little uncomfortable, and the Ravager count looks way better for Solar.
Solar looking for the angle. Elazer's doing a good job of managing the concave, but of course he's bleeding roaches out while trying to defend, and a lot of roaches are popping up in his natural and his main right now. Elazer may have defended the front, but that comes at the cost of him pulling far too many units away from the defense.
Exactly. This is such a difficult game for Elazer. He's also going to bank quite a bit here. Well, of course, because they're almost maxed out. But if he can't remax fast enough, if Solar really does get the momentum, then that bank might not matter. But now it is Elazer actually punching back, sending Solar back home. He has lost a couple of drones, but he's quickly replaced them. He's finally cleaned up all the tunneling claws. Nope, just kidding. There's some in the main again. It's never going to end, basically. I mean, Elazer, he's going to always have to come back a little bit, but be very mindful of the ongoing attack in the middle of the map.
You never clean up all the tunneling claws, Zombie Grub. They just keep on going. An expert like Solar is so annoying with this, the way he's circling around the main, just making Elazer put so many actions and attention into cleaning them up. And you can see even there, a moment of inattention, and 2 roaches do escape. He's trying to catch Solar's Overseer right now, going to Infestation Pit, +2 carapace. And is going to be still skirmishing on the front lines. It feels like the game stabilized. Elazer with a very small worker advantage, a rather large bank advantage.
Yeah.
But of course, it still could go either player's way.
I mean, using the bank to try and get a lead on that technology would certainly be great for it. Again, sometimes it's more about do you have time to remax, necessarily that bank, which would be my major concern if Elazer gets pushed back onto his back foot again. Currently, he's the one controlling the map, being mindful of any little run-bys back at home, and even apparently thinking, hey, that's a pretty good idea. I'm going to go ahead and also go for Tunneling Claws.
More roaches coming in for Solar. He's going to find a bunch more workers. Elazer not too happy with that. He's got so many of his roaches on the front of the map. And that's always a problem. When you get aggressive in this scenario, you're much more open to the backstabs because you don't have units nearby to respond. You have to pull those up from the main and the natural, which opens up another potential tunneling core path to kind of drill their way inside the Zerg base. Elazer still skirmishing on the front line. He's got a forward position, which is scary for Solar. He wants to heal those roaches. Of course, increased regeneration rate whenever they're underground, which does mean you can use it as a healing mechanic as well.
Yeah, this actually is getting quite worrying for Solar. He has now no tunneling claws, so I'm like really quadruple checking, guys, but he is no longer harassing. He's been pushed back to his side of the base, and Elazer had that bank. He has the moment to go for not just Infestation Pit and his own tunneling claws, but also the Hive is on the way. Apparently no attempt to go into those lurkers, but we'll see what his plans are when we get there. Currently, he is actually back on the defense. It's just back and forth on Gressvon for these two guys. Solar, though, did he just find an opening? He's chasing down some tunneling claws of Elazer. Nope, Elazer's army does get split at the last second, utilizing some of the high ground, utilizing some of his own chokes as well. And it looks like Solar's not going to be finding too many openings here.
Elazer doing really well in the units lost out ahead, about 4,000 resources. But whenever you're on the defensive, you have much less room for error. If Solar loses a fight, he backs off, has time to rebuild. You got to keep in mind, though, Elazer has a Hydra Den, a high finishing. He's also built 7 spine crawlers while maintaining a worker advantage. So Elazer's building insurance for the late game. Solar is pretty much all in on Roach Ravager. He's a bit more desperate to find his way in, and find his way in he does.
Yeah, finally. It looked like it might be on the right, but it actually is on the left, just finding Elazer coming down his own ramp. Now Elazer has his full army back on the front lines, however, in an upgrade lead as well, with +2 Carapace having finished a few seconds ago. Elazer does lose his 4th base, but he has the mineral bank to replace that without being sweating about it too hard, and he did finish that Hydralisk Den, getting some of the upgrades, could be working his way to lurkers and the lurker upgrades as well. Also getting some of his own harassment finally on Solar's side of the map. Again, just back and forth between the two, but Elazer's technology now very worrying.
Yeah, it's very important to keep swinging at your opponent. You can't just be on the defense for too long. Otherwise, there's too many chances of them just being the one who pulls your attention to the wrong area of the map and surprises you with a big haymaker. Solar is still all in on Roach Ravager, though. He's playing like this is Heart of the Swarm, Roach vs. Roach era with no transition. Elazer is getting towards that transition while being aggressive and forward of the map. Solar, only 45 drones. He's going for a super max army. He is going to try and win with a big knockout punch at some point. But the moment lurkers are in there, that becomes harder. You add Vipers, it becomes harder again. The 3/3 upgrades, it becomes nearly impossible. Elazer is doing a great job. And remember, he has been consistently winning these trades. He's been out microing Solar for the most part in these multitasking battles. That's why the units lost time is so good for him.
Yeah, and he continues pressuring. I do, if we have a moment, want to check what Solar's knowledge is of where Elazer is at. When's the last time he got some of those tunneling claws into the natural or the main? Okay, so he saw the Infestation Pit, he saw the Hive, so yeah, he's actually saw everything. He knows absolutely he is on a clock, but to be on a clock when you're only on your side of the map is not a particularly great place to be. It looks like his 5th base wants to be targeted by Elazer, decides not to go for it. Instead, Elazer continues pushing in on that 3rd base with some
Oh, that's an overcommit. That's an overcommit.
Absolutely an overcommittal, as he is now retreating the heck out of there.
Yeah, went in a little bit too deep. 22 roaches there to remax for Elazer, but this is a costly trade for him. Hydras and Ravagers in the open on the other side of the map. You cannot let those expensive units get caught out. You can't afford to replace those. Remember, Solar wanted to fight right now. Elazer's upgrades, his Hive tech, none of that's really kicked in just yet. He has to just pull back and make sure he survives. This may have been a huge misstep for Elazer to move across the map at that time. It looks like he's given Solar the opportunity he needed.
Absolutely. Elazer, if he loses right here, right now, he is going to be devastated. He had this game. He just needed to be a little more patient. He thought he smelt blood in the water, but it was a fake. Now it is Solar's turn to get across the map, dominate Elazer's army. Doesn't care about the technology that is only just now finishing. Solar takes his moment and takes game number 1.
He had to work for that one. It's the face of a man who goes, wow, my all-in got completely stuffed at the start of that game. But I found a way to get back into a relatively even game. Then I slowly fell behind. And honestly, a little bit of a Hail Mary situation. It's a spot where you're pinned back. You have an inferior army. You have no tech on the way. You're down in economy. All you can do in that scenario is just try to maintain a good position and extend the fights and just look for a good engagement. And that to some extent relies on your opponent making a misstep. But he fought so hard. He kept skirmishing and skirmishing. And Elazer just made the crucial mistake every Zerg player has made in this matchup, which is, of course, you're into Hydras, almost to Lurkers. You've got a lot of Ravagers, your Roach count's a bit lower. Splitting your army up at that point and trying to kind of outposition your opponent, not as effective because you've given up some mobility. You've got more fragile units in the mix, which will be amazing once you add Lurkers and those extra tier of upgrades. You're just not there just yet. You needed a little bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, Elazer does not seem phased at all. Neither did Solar, actually. He won that game by the skin of his teeth, and he was like, yep, that was easy. Thank you very much. But yeah, that's better news for Elazer not to be phased now that he is down a game where he was in that really solid area. If he had not overcommitted, if he had pulled back immediately, perhaps he could have bought some more time, reinforced just as much as he needed, and then still had a dicier game than you would hope, but actually live. Instead, he really did overcommit. Hell, there could have even been a bit of a misclick, right? He meant to move backwards, and instead he attack moved backwards, you know, started hitting the hatchery again, something like that. But that was really the crucial moment, and Elazer probably identifies it. Maybe he could look at that entire game and say, you know what, I did play that really well. So yeah, that sucks that I lost it in the end, but there's no reason to think that I can't overall beat Solar.
No, definitely not. Solar kind of is like, man, that wasn't working out, but hey, I made it happen. It feels good and bad at the same time because your build choices and the style was not working for you, but you managed to just kind of grit your teeth and work your way through it. So there's bonuses, positives and negatives to kind of take from that. You want to maybe play a little bit more straight up of an opening in the next game and not rely on a Baneling killing 32 Zerglings to get you back in it. That was one of the biggest Baneling hits I've seen in a pro match in a long time. Yeah,
that was, that I guess maybe combined with Elazer being a little supply blocked, really just stopped any momentum Elazer might have gained. But Elazer really did play that so well. Continually watching that resource loss trade just look beneficial for the European Zerg. If he had just played a little more defensive, it would have gone well. We are just going ahead and fixing some technical thing, guys, so very soon we'll be getting into game number 2, which will be on Ancient Cistern.
Yeah, it's going to be a map which is not quite as long a rush distance as Grasfin, which is one of the longest, of course. Shortens, though, once you take your third bases on that map. And Cistern, it's not really till the rocks go down that it becomes a much quicker, rush distance across this map as well. So definitely one where I would not be surprised to see more of the multi-prong action as it progresses. I think this new map pool is all about multiple angles and multitasking and map control. It's about, if you get control of the board, you get control of the center, you can branch out and kind of punish your opponent and pick off their bases. So that's what I'm thinking of here. And in terms of Elazer's strategic follow-ups, I'm sure he's got to think to himself, hey, did I really need to go for just a mass +1 melee Lingbane 2-base attack? No, not really. Like, take the third, tech on upwards. Would have been a great map for Mutas. Grasfin is just made for Muta Zergling play. Even after the Baneling hit, if you just don't go Carapace, but you just go the melee and then go Lair for Mutas, I think it's such a winning play on that map.
Yeah, I mean, could have been very fearful that Solar was going to try and do something all in again, but yeah, that's not how the game went. It was certainly a harder game for Elazer, one where he still managed to eke out the victories, just not the overall one, right? So we once again showing off the scorecards for the two. As far as ZVZ goes, I think Elazer is absolutely a killer. Again, he is very confident. Now Solar, if he was doubting himself, I feel like he should not anymore. He was able to take the moment when given to him, which is a lot about how I guess people win these series, win these championships as well.
That's StarCraft, there's a lot of just looking at it in theory on paper and saying, well, this player should win because of this. And then there's a lot of, but then you're managing 400 things a second. Yeah. You're doing so much, there's stress, there's focus, and there is constant probing and looking for mistakes. This man down here was doing a fantastic job for 90% of that last game. Just a big upset mistake towards the end. He's going to need to clean it up in map number 2. It's Team Liquid's Elazer. The best song.
Absolutely, that's why we keep using it. In the top right of Ancient Cistern, we have that beautiful logo, correct? It is going to be Onside Gaming Solar.
All right, looks like it's going to be hatch first for both players, so very standard openings. And Elazer 1 second quicker to get the hatchery down. So that means, of course, that he's definitely got the game in the bag. But now it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think upgraded Zerglings can be good on pretty much any map in the pool. Last season, really the meta was dominated by Evolution Chamber, Carapace upgrade, Roach Baneling smashing into each other. That was like the #1 you have to watch out for this build, because I've got a wall off with a queen in it. You can't scout. You don't know if there's a lair and I'm droning up, because I'm always sending drones to the third to make it look like I'm droning, or am I massing roaches and going to come out with a big surprise attack? And in Korea especially, Solar, Dark, these guys, it was every second game was that attack. But on the bigger map pool, it's not going to be quite as popular. A few seconds rush distance makes a massive difference. The other day I watched Sue defend Dark doing that build with a 30 worker advantage on Royal Blood, and I was like, okay, maybe this build is done. I'm not sure. So I'm just mentioning it because it was such a big part of the meta. I don't know if this is still something players are doing now.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we're having a basic ZVZ opener, guys, so we can kind of discuss the theory crafting, which really can be all over the place, because even the players themselves, again, it's not just one or two. They're saying we really don't practice a whole lot of ZVZ. Either a problem about having other top-tier Zergs to practice against, or you do, but they're the guys you're going to be facing. So, like, why would you practice against them, right? So
yeah,
it gets a little bit weird, but at least one thing about this map pool also is that we don't have any, perhaps more of the trickier ones where that third base could be technically hidden, like a moon dance. So I believe most of them have said, like, it's, you know, average as far as ZVZ goes, nothing particularly tricky. But I think as we've continued seeing the maps played out at the highest level, and now seeing some of the high-level ZVZs too, as you were saying, it's a lot about that mobility, trying to use the fact that these maps are perhaps more spread out, even if the rush distance doesn't change too much, to try and get just those attacks where necessary. And now we just have, again, the CBZ developing normally with Baneling Nest coming down after third hatches.
Definitely thinking about Mutalisks a lot as well, personally, in terms of, you know, the strength that they could give as well with bigger rush distances and players leaning out of Roach Bane. If that happens, that's going to open up Mutalisks in a big way, because that was one of the biggest builds that stopped people from going quick mutas. There was a time maybe 2 years ago, +1 melee into mutas was like a very common build order. It really was huge. I guess it was probably early popularized by like Scarlet and Raynor trying to do it against Serral back when he was dominating in 2018.
Yeah.
And a year or two after that, it started really getting popular around 2020. But it phased out because people just started hitting these big attacks before you could ever get the Mutalisks out. And definitely something to keep in mind as Solar goes for a quick Evo Chamber. And Elazer getting completely scouted by Solar Zergling.
Yes, yeah. Should be choosing what to add on very, very soon. If we do see Spire play, I'm actually curious about how that late game is going to change too. The Ultra in particular, you know, we usually would say, like, if you go into Ultras at any point, then it's going to be a bit of a throw. But now that they're better against SimCity, you know, that defensively plays Spore Crawler, Evolution Chamber, Wall of Lurkers can be a bit different, but that's very far in the future. Might not even happen in this game, probably will not. Elazer notably not going for an Evolution Chamber.
Yeah.
Just a Roach Warren.
And it's a sneaky Warren too. 16 more Lings on the way into a Roach Warren and a Lair.
Oh. Okay.
Are we Nidusing?
That's what I'm like, well, we have to be doing something, right? So, all right, well, so Solar would have to notice that lack of Evolution Chamber, right? 99% of the time, it is exactly where Solar has it, adding to the wall. So I wonder where like the mind game is with that.
Faking mutas potentially is a big one. Making so many Lings into the Roaches, but with no Evo Chamber, you can't play a proper Roach game. So that's what I'm very curious about. The Lings are going to try and flood in there. Baneling's out on the left side. Good drone pull to get him out of there. But a great retreat from Elazer doesn't overstay his welcome. He's massing drones. 4 gases into Roaches now. But it's a surprising build. Elazer's got some sort of 300 IQ mind game. Does Solar fall for it? Sometimes when you play really tricky, Solar picks up a brick and just smashes it at you. Like, he doesn't overcomplicate things. He will just try and kill you if he's confused by what you're up to. And the thing is, we were saying, oh, it's fake mutas, but now he's actually going into Roaches, and it seems like he wants to commit to a big Roach attack, but with a massive worker count behind it. Elazer definitely doing some backflips right now. Let's just make sure he doesn't backflip over himself.
Exactly. If your opponent's doing something weird, just punch him in the face. That is another one for StarCraft 2 sayings. And Solar apparently going to punch him in the face with a Ling surround. Banelings trying to wash away any Lings that are helpful for Elazer. And Elazer is just caught in such an awkward time. He would have had enough Roaches up against a wall for sure, but being surrounded like that, now revealing his intentions as well and taking down some units. I mean, does Elazer actually have a plan B without that upgrade?
Yeah, without the Evo Chamber, it seems like it's just Roach speed, no upgrade timing from Elazer. Solar is droning a little bit, and he is way down on the Roach count, of course. But the Lings traded all right, I feel, against the Roaches. Took some of them in the Queens down, and he's kind of seen most of what Elazer's got behind it. Solar's not getting +2 range. He's very focused on really just pumping out Roaches, drones, gases right now. Solar was down on workers for a fair bit there. Nidus Worm does come in now for Elazer. So it is the eventual Nidus Worm finish that he's looking for, but he's going to be down an upgrade and only up a handful of Roaches. The army supply is way too close for comfort if you're a Polish fan.
Yeah, even with the Nidus Worm and the somewhat instant reinforcements, the numbers just really aren't going to be that different. And with the upgrade affecting Solar's Roaches too, I am very worried for Elazer. Perhaps this would have been an absolute brilliant move if Solar had more so anticipated either more macro or, of course, those mutas. But after seeing the Roaches getting further harassment as well as scouting, he's really figured things out. He is looking every direction. He's building up his unit count, and he is looking to defend Elazer's all in. It's coming on that third base. So Solar moves his army in time, but the concave goes to Elazer.
Oh, the Nidus is going to pop. He's going to be reinforcing right into the battle. That gets rid of a lot of the defender's advantage. But remember, Solar has +1 range finish here. This army supply very even, but with Queens being pulled in, it's going to be hard for Elazer to break through. Almost identical Roach numbers on both sides, but Solar has the superior concave. More Roaches able to shoot at a moment, and the Nidus Worm gets taken out. But Nidus does pop in the main base. Some Roaches popping out and winning the fight there for Elazer, but he seems to have lost this main fight down here in the south.
Yeah, as soon as Solar actually got everything together, he pushes Elazer back. Takes out the Nidus Worm. Main base is not so much a problem, at least not yet. A couple more Roaches pop out there as we witness the remnants of the main attack on that retreat. It maybe could have been different if Elazer had been able to hide this longer, or if this attack had suddenly gotten those 20 drones he was perhaps looking for. But even as he continues hoping to double down and maybe find something, Solar's also reinforcing. He also is getting enough Roaches to that high ground, and the supplies are pretty much down the tail.
Yeah, the Roaches here, it looks like a good fight, but then the reinforcements come and it's running away, tail between their legs. You can see from Elazer's face, he's not too confident in this situation. Without any upgrades, his Roaches are simply trading worse this entire time. Starts an Evo chamber here, but it's way too late for that. And the units lost tab telling a story of Solar just being rock solid in game number 2.
Yeah, that's actually... Game number 1, it was very, very scary for Solar. Perhaps if Elazer had summed that up, taken that game, it would have been drastically different momentum-wise for game 2, but no. Solar has a little bit of trouble game 1, and then game 2 is like, yep, I'm the boss, I'm the king, this is me taking the ZB